Tonight, Sidney Powell, former federal prosecutor, author, attorney for former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Great to have you here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
That was an extraordinary performance by both the radical Dems, who had had a mock rehearsal, and the way in which they embarrassed themselves, their party, the nation, and all they represent. It was awful.
It was just appalling from every perspective on every level. It was an embarrassment for Mr. Mueller personally, who allowed his credibility and his integrity to be put behind this investigation when the entire thing
was
a fraud built on a fraud.
Yeah, it was built on a fraud. Unfortunately, he has to take responsibility for the fraud that he perpetrated on the nation with that witch hunt, because we now know, the special counsel knew, that there was no collusion, there was no conspiracy with the Russians, and allowed the Democratic Party to steal the 2018 midterm elections. And that there is no other way to look at it than that.
No, and I think he had to know it before he even started the investigation, because Andrew Weissman, his lead lieutenant, was running the back channel with Bruce Orr on fabricating the Steele dossier and getting it into the hands of the FBI.
Were you
so
stunned?
was Ms. Ahmad.
Were you stunned when he said he didn't even had no context or understanding of fusion GPS or the role of Christopher Steele, or so much that he obviously didn't possess, or certainly didn't want to acknowledge that he possessed, that you would have expected would have been top of mind for a special counsel?
You would think, particularly when it may very well have been Russian disinformation that wound up in the Steele dossier and should have been within his purview, which of course he used at every opportunity to refrain from answering questions.
Well, it's a hell of a note when a former MI6 operative permits himself to be a victim of a disinformation campaign by the Russians. One would expect more talent and more sophistication than that. I think it is what it appears to be in this instance, Sidney, and that is a straightforward effort to tear up a sitting president of the United States.
Oh, yes, and Mueller, I'm convinced, was part of the insurance policy that Page and Strzok talked about.
Where do we go from here?
Well, Attorney General Barr and Mr. Durham have their work cut out for them, because to restore any faith in the justice system at all in this country and to restore the rule of law, there are going to have to be serious criminal ramifications for the people who lied on the FISA warrants, abused power.
We've seen no prosecutions, though.
I know.
Even those people.
Even McCabe, who was the subject of a criminal referral for flat-out lying under oath, according to the Inspector General. Nothing's happened there yet, and he's still running around on a book tour.
And we're approaching...
The double standard's appalling.
Well, and James Comey is at large, looking as much like a Russian disinformation agent as he could possibly. There's a lot yet to explain and to, hold accountable those who perpetrated this terrible insult on the nation.
Mr. Barr needs to be both Hercules to clean out the Augean stables and Atlas, because he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders right now. I mean, the future of our republic depends on restoring the rule of law.
It does indeed, and I am persuaded that he is the right fellow.
I really like him too.
Good. Sidney Powell, great to see you.
Thanks
so much.
My pleasure.
We'd like to hear your thoughts on all of this. Share your